that's where the red arrows are passed.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark Hutchins.
Just in an interesting aside, I mentioned that after 6:30 we're going to talk about rehab and what goes on and what they aim to try to do if you go into rehab. This text is just arrived from Adam in Bradford, who says, Tony, one doesn't recover from addiction. Once an addict, always an addict. We aim to manage our addictions. But that's quite interesting, because yesterday, this is probably what informed my language earlier on when I said about recovering from an addiction. We got a series of tweets on the programme saying, please tell the reporter talking about Ant McPartlin earlier that not all people previously addicted to alcohol are recovering alcoholics. Many have recovered and lead healthy alcohol-free lives. It's an interesting debate, isn't it? And one we'll try and get more detail on when we speak about it after 6:30 tonight. If you've got any more thoughts, 85058 at BBC5 Live, coming up to 5:10. Now, MPs have called on the Facebook boss, Mark Zuckerberg, to give evidence after the latest revelations about the harvesting of users' data. The company Cambridge Analytica is accused of exploiting personal details from 50 million Facebook members to influence the 2016 US presidential election. The Information Commission is also seeking a warrant to look at databases and servers used by Cambridge Analytica. Both companies deny doing anything wrong. Well, Ian Lucas is a Labour MP on the Digital Culture, Media and Sport Committee, the very committee which is calling on the Facebook boss to answer questions in person. Hello, Ian. Welcome to the programme.
Hello, thanks.
What hope do you have that he'll turn up?
Well, I think that this is clearly for the company, which is his business, a major issue which is affecting the reputation and the value of the business massively. There are clearly questions that are outstanding. We heard from Facebook in evidence last month. It appears from a lot of the information that came out of the weekend that some of the information we've been given already by Facebook is not accurate. So we need answers, and he's the man in charge. We need to get them from him.
The chairman of the committee, Damien Collins, has gone as far as to kind of hint that Facebook have misled the committee. So would you say to Mark Zuckerberg, why have your people lied to us?
Well, I think what we can say is, why is it that the evidence that we've had to date been contradicted by a lot of the evidence that has come out in the Guardian and Observer reports over the weekend? And we need to have answers from them. At the moment, it simply seems that the case that Facebook put forward previously does not stack up. So we need clarity, and he needs to take responsibility.
What is your main concern? Is it that information is being harvested? Is it that information's being harvested unwittingly from friends of people who've taken quizzes, for example? Or is it that information is then subsequently being used to feed opinions and perhaps influence people?
I think the starting point is that I don't think people understand what Facebook has been doing with the information that they are gleaning from the people who use Facebook on a day-to-day basis. And I think there needs to be a huge improvement in the clarity of the information that Facebook provides to the people who use the platform.
So to be clear, is it the fact that Facebook are doing it, or what they do with that information when they get it?
I think they need to tell people what they are doing with the information. At the moment, we don't know what they do with the information. And one of the major problems with the legislative framework at the moment, you mentioned the Information Commissioner, is that she does not have the powers to look behind the curtain, as the chairman of the committee put it, to look at what Facebook is collecting, about what they are doing with the information, and we are taking Facebook on trust. Everybody's done that in the last two general elections, in the referendum, and in the United States election, and that trust now is completely broken.
Where do you draw the line, though? Because only on this programme yesterday I was talking about how my supermarket definitely knows what I buy and then tries to influence my shopping habits. So is that as wrong as somebody trying to influence a voting habit?
Well, I think if you collect information for one purpose and then you use it for another purpose, I think that perhaps is the line. And people are very wary about surrendering their views for political campaigning, for example. So if you give information to a supermarket about your shopping habits, do you also consent to allowing that information to be used for political campaigning purposes? Those are the types of issues that I think we need to think about now, because political campaigning has shifted in a huge way in the last 3 years since the 2015 general election. In my personal experience, the battlefield is now social media. It's not the streets knocking on doors in the way that we did previously.
Yeah.
And at the moment, it's not regulated in the way that it should be.
Part of the allegations here are that the information was taken and then fed back in the form often of fake news to people who were likely to vote for Donald Trump in the 2016 US general election. But there have also been claims that the same techniques could have been used to influence voters around Brexit and the referendum. Is that something you'd be interested in exploring?
I'd certainly be interested in exploring all of these issues. The difficulty is that we don't have access to the information at the present time. That's why we need to have clarity from Facebook, from Cambridge Analytica, about what exactly they were doing, what messages they were delivering, and who was funding this message delivery.
It's so fluid though, isn't it? How would you even legislate? If I do a quiz online that says, well, I like looking at flowers, I like the smell of spring, and I like to go to Spain on my holiday, from that someone gleans my personality and thinks, well, he might be influenced by this aspect of an election, by saying, I don't know, flights abroad may be cheaper under a Labour government than the Conservative government. How do you begin to legislate against that?
Well, there are already restrictions on using information that is given in the digital sphere for political purposes or for identifying people's opinions on a whole range of issues. The issue that we have a problem with is getting access to that information, and looking at the platform like Facebook is not within the power of the Information Commissioner at the moment. That's really the avenue that we've already explored in evidence from the Information Commission, and that's what we want to take forward.
So just a final question, very, very simple answer. Are you going to try and stop Facebook looking for this kind of information altogether, or just only use it for purposes that you approve of?
Well, I think it's not a question of what I approve of. It's making clear that people who use the platform what the information is going to be used for, what it's allowed to be used for, and whether they agree to it.
All right. It'll be interesting to see whether he does show up, won't it?
Will indeed.
Ian Lucas, thank you. Labour MP on the Digital Culture, Media and Sport Committee. If you're a Facebook user, do you have concerns after what you've heard on Red? Let us know. 85058 at BBC 5 Live, 5:15.
This is 5 Live Drive.
The main headlines are Red Arrow's aircraft has crashed at RAF Valley on Anglesey. 2 people are thought to have been on board. 23 Russian diplomats expelled over the Salisbury nerve agent attack have left the UK. And as you've been hearing, MPs are calling for Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg to answer questions about the misuse of people's data. Travel now orders with. And the M69. So the rolling roadblock's still there. It's in Leicestershire on the northbound side at Hinckley at Junction 1. Is to repair some potholes, so it's going to take a little while longer. And the M58 in Lancashire. If you're heading east out towards the M6 at the Oral Interchange, there's some slow traffic there for some reason. It's the exit slip road leading onto the A577, and the entry slip is so slow as a result. The M6 in Cumbria, if you're heading south, 2 lanes have been closed just ahead of South Wayne Services. This is where the caravan overturned. So the vehicle that was towing it still at the scene as well, between junction 41 and junction 42. So 2 lanes remain closed, so you can get past in 1 lane. M6 in the West Midlands, if you're heading north, junction 5 up to 6 at Spaghetti Junction. It's only a broken down van, one of the lanes is closed. And in Warwickshire, there are queues in both directions between Nuneaton and the M6. It's because of roadworks. The smart motorway, apparently, that's what's happening. They've got a section there, and they've got some narrow lanes, so that's slowing things down. For some reason, it's very slow today. That's unusual. The M5 Avonmouth Bridge heading south, 18A at the M49 to 19 at Portishead. One of the lanes is closed to deal with an accident, and it's left debris on the road as well. Those queues go back to junction 16, and the M25 anti-clockwise queue still there from the M11 to Waltham Abbey, 27 to 26. All lanes are open, but the queues are back to 28 at Brook Street roundabout. It's also slow on the clockwise side passing the scene, and anti-clockwise along the bottom near the M23. There are queues there after an accident and lane closure earlier. And the M3 Hampshire, junction 6 Basingstoke. The breakdown's gone now, but there are queues on the southbound side heading down towards 7 at Basingstoke. Order Merchant, 5 Live Travel.
BBC Two goes behind the scenes of the NHS during one of the most challenging winters on record.
We've never had it as bad as this before. We don't know when we can start operating again at the moment.
We don't want to be in these jobs and feel that we've let any patients down, and ultimately we are at the moment.
What led to the intervention by NHS bosses that made national headlines?
We are being asked to cancel any non-essential activity.
This is near
minutes past 5, it's Drive with Tony and Sarah, and England's footballers are at their training base hoping to impress manager Gareth Southgate less than 2 months before he names his provisional squad for this summer's World Cup. One of those close to booking his place on the plane to Russia is Manchester United's Ashley Young. Now, you might remember Young missed out on the 2014 World Cup. He was only recalled to the England squad at the end of last year after 4 years out. This afternoon, he's been speaking to our football correspondent John Murray.
I've never said that I was retiring from international football. I've left the door open for the manager to come back and include me again. I've always wanted to represent my country. It's an honour to represent my country, and whenever I get that chance and that opportunity to, I'll keep doing it as long as my legs can keep taking me there. Then I'll always be available for selection. Like I said, I've obviously got to play well at United to get that recognition. And, I've had that, especially in the last 2 call-ups. So now I'm here. I've got to impress again, and hopefully get some minutes under my belt in the next 2 games.
Yeah. What was it like being back with an England shirt on?
It was just, like I say, it was an honour for me. When you put on the England shirt, and obviously being at Wembley in the game, there's no better place to be, I feel. It's a fantastic stadium to play there, but like I say, it's an honour, and I was delighted to be back in the England squad.
Back at the last World Cup, we all thought that Luke Shaw would be the left back for some time to come. What would your advice be to him in his position, where he's clearly not going through a good time with him?
I'm not here to talk about other people and whatnot. Obviously, as a player that wants to do well, I want to see him doing well. Obviously, it's like all players. You just have to get your head down and work.
But he has that in him, you feel, to come again?
Yeah, of course. He's a fantastic player. I feel he can be one of the best in the world. Like I say, you just got to work hard.
Ashley Young speaking to John Murray, clearly very excited. We can speak to our senior football reporter Ian Dennis now, live from England's training base at St George's Park. Deno, is Ashley Young someone that you think could get into Gareth Southgate's starting 11 plans?
I'm not so sure about the starting 11 for the World Cup and the opening game in Russia, Sarah, but I do think that he's got every chance of being involved in the squad, because when Gareth Southgate comes to selecting his squad of 23, he's going to look for those players who can play in a number of positions. And we've seen Ashley Young excel at left back for Manchester United this season, and no surprise that they've exercised their right to extend his contract at Old Trafford for another 12 months. That's just happened. But also he can play on the other side at right back, but also in his more accustomed position where he used to play for England, further up on that left-hand side. So Ashley Young, I think, offers the versatility that Gareth Southgate will be seeking.
So the next 7 days, isn't it? So the next 2 friendlies against the Netherlands and Italy. How important are those for players to show their stripes, to prove to Gareth Southgate that they're the men to be on the team?
Well, crucial. I mean, Ashley Young last time, as you said earlier, that it was his first time back, in November for an absence of 4 years, but he actually only played 10 minutes of game time. But what Gareth Southgate will be looking at, particularly as well with the 4 uncapped players who are in the squad, Nick Pope has been talking today, the Burnley goalkeeper, just saying, I can't believe I'm here. And I spoke to Alfie Mawson, who'll be going out tomorrow, and he's a very humble guy as well. They're just pleased to be here. So it's not just the game time, because actually in game time is very limited before Gareth Southgate names his squad, because you've got these 2 games. But it's also the time on the training field is that opportunity to impress Gareth Southgate, who said to me only last week that, injuries permitting, if the squad had to be named tomorrow, he would know his final 23. Right. So I think a lot of those places are fixed, and it's just trying to force your way into the thinking for Gareth Southgate.
And Ian, a lot of criticism around the makeup of this squad so close to the start of the World Cup. But there's always a lot of criticism, isn't there? And I'm just I want to get your thoughts on that, because it's not that long ago I was speaking to Kieran Darr, and he was saying this is the England players' disease. He told me everybody's scared in an England shirt. Is there going to be just as much pressure, just as much criticism as there always is on an England team?
Well, I think for the first time in a long time, Sarah, England will go into a major tournament not with the expectation levels as high as they have been previously. Right. And I think Gareth Southgate has gone a long way to trying to claw it back to say, look, this is where we are. The thing is that we don't have a golden generation that was dubbed for a Lampard and a Gerrard of years gone by. We don't have those players now. You look at players who are playing at the top clubs and they're not getting games. Gary Cahill's not playing. John Stones has played one in the last 5 for Manchester City. So those who are at the top clubs are not getting games.